Welcome to today's session of the courtroom. With me, your host, Lady Lawyer Abby. Today, we are blessed to have in the session Lawyer Timothy Odoi Adote from the Nazareth Assembly and also Lawyer Ernest Kofi Boateng from Kaneshie Central Assembly. Lawyer Timothy and Lawyer Ernest, you are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Today, the session is going to be exciting as always. We are treating the topic breach of promise to marry. Say obi ahye oboso obeware nanso ekodu echi na aware no anyamba so. I hope I've gotten it right. So that's the topic for today. And I believe there are so many experiences with that. We want to see what the law says about that. So I think normally we call it promise and fail. And broken hearts.
Broken hearts.
Broken hearts. So you ever say, is there any remedy when it comes to broken hearts? When it comes to breach of promise to marry, is there any remedy? In our previous session, we got some questions coming in. And if you are watching and still have questions, please do send them to the number 054-606-4913. So let's get to the questions. Then we get to today's discussion. So we had a question from PK. And PK says that, my question is, I had a child with a lady and I plan to marry her, which the family gave me a list. That is the list that you take from the family when you want to marry. So he said the family gave him the list. But along the way, she packed and left. Can I go for the child? If yes, what is the step to take, please? So PK, thank you for sending your question. Lawyer Timothy, we had a question from PK. Right. He is saying that there was a lady he intended to marry. He got the list from the family, and then along the way, the lady packed and left. They had a child. He had a child with the lady, and he's asking if he can go and pick that child, and if he can, what are the steps he has to take?
Again, in law, everything depends on something.
Okay.
So it depends on the relationship between him and the woman who has, quote unquote, deserted him, because from the question, it means that the woman left with the child.
Yes.
You know. The second question is, how old is the child? Is PK capable of taking care of the child by himself? Does he have any arrangements to take care of the child? As for the paternity, it is not in dispute. He is the father.
Okay.
So the fact that the child is with the mother who has deserted him is neither here nor there, provided that the two of them still are able to take care of the child. Unless the woman is incapable of taking care of the child, then he can go for the child. I'm using the words he used.
Yes.
He can go for the child, meaning that then he would have custody of the child. And onuno behwe akolano. But akolano I mean, if the child is an infant, let's say less than 3 years old. I mean, I have daughters, 2 daughters.
Okay.
But it will be difficult for a man to take care of a child who is maybe
a year
breastfeeding.
Old or some months, okay.
Or has just stopped breastfeeding and has to be given some
now introducing solid
liquids,
food, yeah.
You know. So you look at the interest of the child. As I said, as for him being the father, no contest.
There's no doubt.
So he can speak with the woman who has left the home and look and see how the child's welfare is being upheld.
Okay.
If the woman is taking care of the child and he just has to give her money and be visiting the child every now and then to see if the child is growing well, until maybe the child gets to a certain age where they can co-share.
Okay.
So that the child spends some time with him and
then
spends some time with the mother.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lawyer Timothy. But from the question, I think his concern is because maybe they are not married, because he just said he was giving the list.
Yes.
Yes, Lawyer Kofi, if they are not married from the question and the lady is keeping the child, you, the man, do you have the right in law that you want the child to be with you? Don't worry about you. In a akwalano or banning. And ranoma who quine say, itimi kwaji akwala no say wo so behwe no.
Okay, so the issue at hand is such that he thinks it is an inherent right as a father of the child to go as and when he likes to take custody of the child and bring him to his home or where he lives. You just don't do that under the law.
Okay.
The law is such that you need to apply for custody orders, and the court will have to grant you custody
Even
of
when
the
they are
child.
not married.
Even when you are not married.
Okay.
It's a separate action that could be brought. It's an
Okay.
application that you bring into court.
Oh, okay.
Nti sɛ only obi awo na sɛ mo pɛ sɛ moyɛ arrangement, but then you've not been able to determine the arrangements in terms of the custody arrangements of the child, then the court will need to decide. In this case, the lady has taken the child away. He doesn't, I'm not sure he knows the whereabouts. But then an application can be brought before the competent court of jurisdiction, and the court will determine the merits. And mind you, it is not based on what inherent right the husband or the wife would have.
Okay.
It is the best interest of the child that the court will be looking at.
Okay.
So as Lawyer Adote was saying, are you capable of taking care of the child? Are you taking the child away from an environment
That
he
is
or she is
constricted.
used to? If they are two siblings, are you separating siblings? The court is going to look at these things, and usually the court favors mothers, especially of infants.
Okay.
And that is the case. So it is not just because you're a father and you think you have a right, you just go in and then you take a child.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And other than that, you may be guilty of the offense of kidnapping, child kidnapping.
Hey,
And that is a serious
is
offense.
his own
Yes.
child.
Yes.
Okay.
It happens a lot based on misunderstanding. So the father, when he finds out where the children are, maybe they go to school here or there, one afternoon he takes some heavily built people to accompany him to the school and then just takes the children.
Or
and
even once the school knows this is your father,
then, yes, though
they allow
hand over.
access to the
Exactly.
child while the mother was not aware, that the,
exactly. It happens a lot.
Thank you, Lawyer Kofi and Lawyer Timothy. So PK is advised to say Obeko Court and I be a
apply
district,
to a
yes,
court.
district court na ewo ho no apply say e be up custody of akola na oni lady na wo no. Then the court will look at circumstances no. Na court na determine. Okay, so PK, thank you for sending your question. Now we hope we've been able to help you. And then we have one more question before we get to today's topic. This one says, I am customarily married for 12 years now. My wife doesn't bear my name, and her company doesn't recognize her as a married woman. So I don't benefit from certain things like health care and lots more. Is it lawful? Because she's told she hasn't brought her marriage certificate to the office. I'm from Kumasi. My name is Akwesi Boateng. Thank you, Akwesi Boateng, for sending in your question. So Akwesi Boateng is saying that he and their wife married under the customary law, and we have learned here that it is also a legal, it's a valid form of marriage in Ghana. And the issue is that he's saying the wife's company is saying they are not aware, say, Akwesi Boateng or Irina Wari, because she hasn't presented any marriage certificate to the office. So he, as a husband, is not benefiting from the health insurance and all that the company gives. So he wants to know, is it lawful what the company is doing? Lawyer Adote, could you please help us?
It is very lawful because the wife has not presented anything to show that her status has changed from being single to married.
Okay.
And we have explained already, say, under customary law, the customary marriage is valid,
Yes.
but no certificate is issued at the ceremony.
Yes.
So what next?
Okay.
If you want to maintain the customary law marriage, which means it is, don't forget, potentially polygamous, then you ought to go to the district assembly to have it registered.
Okay.
So that when you register it, then you will have a certificate of proof to show that you are indeed married under customary law.
Okay.
And you don't necessarily need to change your name to that of Mr. Boateng.
Okay.
But the mere fact that you now have a document, a legal document, which indicates that your status has changed from single to married, then when you present to the company, then they know your status has changed.
Okay.
And then any benefit that accrues to your spouse per their company policy, then Mr. Boateng can benefit. But without that, the company is right in insisting that you haven't
They are not aware that she's married.
Exactly.
Okay. So this court, do they both have to go together, or the woman alone has to go, Lawyer Boateng?
Oh, just one of them could go to the district assembly.
So the man can do that, or the woman? Okay.
No, you can do that, but then in terms of filling the application form, I'm sure both will be required to sign.
Okay.
So it's not something you need to do there and then. You can bring it back home, look through it, and then.
Okay.
Yeah. But I must add, there was somebody who said, customary marriage, yes, it is valid without any proof of certification. Asamunti ane ye krata. Enti say you who say ampa anase aso maware ewo customary marriage or if you are more. Se court kwehwehwe mu a obeti nkofo anu disem. The testimony of others, any pictures that are available, any form of evidence, and not just by mere words, unless both are saying or admitting to the fact that they are married. But just in case one is deceased, then how do you prove it?
Exactly.
Do you understand? So it is necessary, as we've said, it is desirable, but then this is the case where it has become necessary for you to get the certificate to help you in the necessary processes that would require you to show proof of your marriage.
Your marriage, all right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Lawyer Timothy and Lawyer Boateng. So, Akwesi Boateng, I hope we've helped. Either you or your wife can pick the form at the court to fill. Then after that, the court will give you the certificate. Then your wife can present to the company to prove that she's married. She doesn't have to change her name or anything. Your marriage certificate is not the court officer. Now the office can recognize you as a spouse and then recognize your wife as a married woman. We are taking a short break. We'll be right back.
Tac Newsline will bring you incredible news stories.
From business, the economy, religion, politics, and health.
The latest in entertainment, sports, exclusive interviews, and updates.
Do join us on our social media handles: Facebook Tac TV, YouTube Tac TV.
Tac Newsline, live on weekdays at 8 p.m.
Tac Newsline.
Tac Newsline.
Tac Newsline, demystifying the news.
Tac Newsline, live on weekdays at 8 p.m.
One of the most beautiful gifts God has given us is the power of choice. When you refuse to use the power God has given you, lesser powers in life will rule over you.
You must only listen to that which empowers you. I can tell you I am only an expert on one thing, and that's how to be me. And I do it well.
One in the situation now, or woman, Bemo, or not as I share, how and when do you have to get up and move up?
A poor foundation, a small foundation, an ugly foundation is not one that is destroyed.
Satan had an issue with God, and then he was sent down to earth. Is that not an issue of
refuse to be neutral. Stand for something. Otherwise, you die for nothing. And that's why we are saying, I choose to choose.
Welcome back to the courtroom. And before we proceeded on the break, we introduced the topic as breach of promise to marry. So, Obiasha Oboso Beware on Nanso. Promise no ma on winti me in this. What is the remedy available? I was saying who say we want to know what breach of promise to marry is. You can say breach of promise to marry in the law. What is it? Lawyer Kofi Boateng.
Okay, so breach of promise to marry is such that one person, either a man or even a woman, not just a man or a woman would propose marriage to the other, being another man or a woman. And the promise is seriously made and is accepted. And then they take steps on that promise which is made. Then later, by action or by words, one of them backs off his or her promise. That is when that person who backs off on that promise is said to have been in breach of that marriage.
Okay.
Say oba ana bema, enye bema nkwa. Oba esu to me a promise.
No, we feel.
No, I feel.
Okay.
Enti say o promise nipa foforo. Na say nipa promise no make here no. O ye na ni breso. Enya agro na na wodi. Ena nipa kono so ye promise no so gitum. Etu hu anamon bi. Na fe di eche. O ka chen say oh untumi ana wonni ye bi eche say onya wagen say obedi oboshe na wo share no so. Eno ena de sa breach of promise to marry ekoba.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Adidia, it happens a lot, and when it happens, some people end up on this one, then that will be it. But I hope today will help the society to know that in the law too there's a remedy. So let's look at now. You can say breach of promise. Now, how does it occur, Lea Timothy? I don't know if you can help explain it a bit.
Wafen wa nyanyime ni wole akeshi. Nyanyime hi. Wole akeshi eke avlana ke makpebu. Eke avla kokla ke makpebu. Eke avla koklo kunwa ke makpebu. This is what we are talking about. Giving a promise to marry, and then reneging on your promise. The last time we said that a marriage is like a contract. So it shares certain characteristics of a contract. So there must be offer and acceptance. Mokobaka keshimak people. Mone oke obak pele and we kakeshi in here wo mi akeshi obak pay me. So that's offer and acceptance. Intention to create legal relations. So you want to get married, and that will change your status from being single to being married. You exchange certain promises. You know, so when a person breaches that promise, then that is when we come to the breach of a promise to marry. Meaning that what you said you would do, you didn't do. Meaning that you pulled out of your promise to marry the other person who you made the promise to. So you can it can be overt or implied. What do we mean? Actions, words, or implied.
You'll get into that one. Yes, you get into. So when you're speaking, you say marriage and I say contract, offer, acceptance. It's a breach of promise to marry, and I'm marriage, no.
Yes, so breach of
once a contract, there's consideration.
Yes.
It's a marriage, no. What will be the consideration?
So the consideration is the promise given to each other.
Promise, no.
Yes, to get married. That is the consideration. That is what passes from in law the promisor to the promisee. And we don't want to go into those details, but it's the exchange of promises between the parties. And one person acts on the promise on the other.
That you have given. Thank you. As Lawyer Kofi was saying, you know, I think he stressed to say it's not only the men that can do this breach of promise to marry. Oban also, maybe I've promised a guy then ebedu hono na will say you won't do it again.
It
The guy can also.
It happens a lot.
Okay.
This is a very interesting. I mean, some women, they'll let men take care of them based on the promise to marry in their schooling
School fees
or learning a trade. The woman finishes learning the trade or complete school and says, "Me worry
Onyame level.
Onyame level." So see, me taste assistant.
So it's both ways.
It's both ways.
Okay.
Both ways.
All right. Iti. Lawyer Kofi. Thank you, Lawyer Adoti. Lawyer Kofi, should the agreement to marry, should it always be expressed and now it can be implied? The agreement between the two parties to marry, should it be always expressed or it can be implied?
Okay. Thank you. What I'm about to say may shock some, because promising to marry someone is not only done expressly, that I want to marry you. Now what the one waka and on that contract to marry it doesn't bring that. That's not the only way that contract to marry is made existent.
I will say you have to kneel down and then bring the ring and then now coffee be trap videos. Is that you are saying that's not the only way?
That's not the only way. So the other way is through implied means.
Implied.
Where the court can infer from the conduct of both parties that they were preparing for marriage and they took steps and they understood that this particular preparation and steps that they were taking was towards marriage. Say and she one year be another warrior no.
Okay.
Again, Tiase be another woman won say warrior, say be ya one bewire. And the case be crowd honum Sewa versus Hashimu.
Yes.
Any Gariba.
Gariba. Okay.
A case be a course to Supreme Court now.
Okay. Okay.
Obano, any Bemano, Bemana can't change that. Say, oh, mewaro. No, Bano so ankada anchon who so meware. Na ejuma a na ekoso Italy, no mo Italy. Ena ema ejuma no ye na fe de obano. Sika obenya no de akoma bema, sika obenya no de akoma bema. No mama ni bi e de abrenense. Ama oba Ghana na fe de na se ba asha say training because no me enkremofo.
Okay.
Asha say training because ye
omo training obano.
Obano say oba be ye ya convert to about Islam.
Okay.
And these are all that preparation that was geared towards her becoming a wife.
Okay.
Into Koba Safedi Hashimu and said on the court found it to be a promise that was seriously inferred, for which his breach or going back on his word was a breach of promise to marry.
Okay. So you're saying, and then it's not always say the person should expressly say mewaro and sana say one warewa the other person has a case.
Yes.
Because sometimes man and nobody because and I say okra man ka say mewaro we're just there.
It has to be the court that will decide that based on the circumstances and the fact. Is it possible that we can infer a promise made by the party and relied on by the other?
Okay. Lawyer Timothy.
To marry.
Yes.
Thank you, Lawyer Bart.
We have said time without number that a marriage is like a contract.
Okay.
An agreement to marry is also like a contract. So we can infer from the conduct of the parties whether there was an agreement to marry, like Senya Abuatin Aka. Okay. And why are we saying breach? We are saying breach once again because an agreement to marry is like a contract. And where one party fails to perform his part, then the other party is entitled to a remedy.
Okay.
Because the party who did not fulfill the promise has breached the terms of the contract. And that is why we call it breach of promise to marry. Because you have failed to carry out your obligation under the contract, quote unquote.
Thank you so much. Please, if you are watching and you have questions, please send it to the number 054-606-4913. Lawyer Kofi, can you give some instances, nipa ko no beka say, or yeah, promise, but while she situation na no onye serious. Are there anything like that? Ebia nipa ko na ka so me waro, but at the end, the law would deem it say it wasn't made on a serious note. Is there anything like that?
Okay, so this thought, breach of promise to marry, for all intents and purposes, is a thought.
Okay.
Now, this particular thought is such that it has the promise that is made to the other person has to be seriously made, or even if it has to be inferred, the circumstances should seriously be in directness to the intention to marry.
Yeah.
So, for instance, ebia bema no wakobro anajubi anase enemu anabia enadabusu na ewo nani so na ubenya no akache se oh the person me ware wate na so ka say you wajiatu na video ye na adwen so ware wa say
okay,
breach of promise to marry or break your heart so
okay,
in such circumstances no his capacity to enter into that contract has been taken away from him. Only capacity. For you to have made such a promise, you have to have capacity. And no, was he in his mental faculties? Another thing, Obi Oye under 16.
Okay.
No, under 18. Because Ghana and Bremuno, only 18 I want to mean worry. Bema already 17. And to me, promise it. Oba already 16 say, and Obi Owe channel, or that individual say, Oba, that person does not have that capacity.
Really?
Yes.
I say if you who know now was shanable until lady knows or trainer if you 18 now I promise now if a guy be 18, 20 now guy in the song worrying him. Are you saying say lady no to mean take the guy on or make you promise when he was under 18 though, but the lady has waited. Now, I feel be 18, 19. And the guy is saying he won't marry again.
What I'm saying is, the person making
at
the promise,
point he made the promise.
At the point he made the promise, did he have capacity to enter into that contract to marry?
Okay.
So, because capacity in that sense is 21. Take that 21. If you are not at the age of 21, you can't contract. Enter into a contract.
Yeah.
So it has to be seriously made. No, we look at some of these circumstances. Then again, Sebia, he was intoxicated.
So I want to get to that side. To Kasebia, more party, a sinner, wish ya stranger, be nice guy be, and a nice lady be. While when we say lady, she's drunk, another guy is drunk. Now more kasana in the talk at that party. Guy now make you promise say, oh, I'll marry you. Now say insanity tiffin in this now say, oh, worry Bilma. Are you saying you don't have a case against the guy?
You don't have a case against the guy because he didn't have he wasn't in his mental faculties to have validly enter into such a contract. I can't remember the age, and then the mental capacity of the individual.
Okay. Let Timothy can come in.
Yes, I was just going to add that it doesn't even matter if, you met the person once at a party and you were intoxicated.
Okay.
The other person could even be your friend, your colleague, or whatever. But the social setting within which you met and your mental state, as Rabatin has said. So if you are my work colleague, we go to a party. And I'm so inebriated that, oh, Abigail, I'll marry you, you are sweet, I'll marry you. I mean, it can't work.
I shouldn't take it serious.
At all.
It ain't that serious.
Yeah, bro.
At all. Because he wasn't in the mental state to contract any marriage, as Lawyer Boatin said.
Wow. Viewers, I hope you are really learning. Oh, share now a question there. Pacho, send a question to 054-606-4913. Yeah, call on a short break. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Tac Newsline will bring you incredible news stories.
From business, the economy, religion, politics, and health.
The latest in entertainment, sports, exclusive interviews, and updates.
Do join us on our social media handles: Facebook Tac TV, YouTube Tac TV.
Tag Newsline, live on weekdays at 8 p.m.
Tac Newsline.
Tag Newsline.
Tac Newsline, demystifying the news.
Tag Newsline, live on weekdays at 8 p.m.
One of the most beautiful gifts God has given us is the power of choice. When you refuse to use the power God has given you, lesser powers in life will rule over you.
You must only listen to that which empowers you. I can tell you I am only an expert on one thing, and that's how to be me. And I do it well.
Means say one in the situation now, a woman. Bemo onakasa share ni hu nkunize. How and when do you have to get up and move up?
A poor foundation, a small foundation, an ugly foundation is not one that is destroyed.
Satan had an issue with God, and then he was sent down to earth. Is that not an issue of
Refuse to be neutral. Stand for something. Otherwise, you die for nothing. And that's why we are saying, I choose to choose.
Welcome back from the break. Before we proceeded on the break, we're discussing breach of promise to marry. And in the local way, so if you are sure boss of the warona, Boshe na washo no we in this, and then there I can promise and fail, and I broken heart, and na ye di discussion and there. Now breach of promise to marry, who say it can be from Obano and now Bermano, and yet Obano and now Bermano, both parties, either party, once the person made you a promise but failed to go on the promise the person has made, you have an action in court, or you have a remedy in court. So let's look at it. And then we are about to talk about the types of breaches. Lawyer Kofi, can you help us discuss yeka breach now? Breach of promise, no breach now yeka wansem no. Which forms do they come in? Okay,
so I'll go ahead to name the two forms and take my time to explain both.
Please do.
The two types are anticipatory breach, and then the second one is non-performance.
Okay.
So let me start off with the non-performance, because usually that is the most common form of breach of promise to marry. So non-performance is when one party promises the other to marry at a set date, or on the occurrence of a certain occasion or event.
Okay.
And that event happens, or the date comes, and the person refuses to honor the promise. That is when non-performance breach would have occurred.
Okay.
Me cheche mo twi.
Alright.
Se be man na so ba no. Ebe she the other ofofro no bo. Se me ware o. Eda say ana se nyoma bi say esisi a ana me ware o. Na se sa nyoma ni siye ana se sa da na o share wo no. Eda no dru ye no. One di ne bo share no so. Eno na ye friend no non-performance breach of marriage.
Okay. Yeah, let's stay a bit on the non-performance. Thank you, Lawyer Timothy. Lawyer Kofi. Lawyer Timothy, non-performance, no. Can you also explain it a bit? Or see breach, you know. There will move two types, and we are looking at the non-performance. Yes.
So the non-performance breach means that an event must occur.
Okay.
Or the parties have set a date. So assuming that on the 25th you decided, both of you decided and agreed to marry on 25th of July 2024.
Okay.
On that day, let's say the man is at the altar waiting for you. And you are at home, the bride being dressed by your family and all of that. And then you refuse to show up. That is a non-performance.
Okay.
because the date both of you agreed arrived, and yet you did not go to the altar and complete the vows. That is, if it is ordinance and the marriage of the certificate.
Okay.
You know, so that is one. Another is that I'll marry you when probably my father dies, because I may be an only child taking care of my father. He's advanced in age, he's ill, so I cannot handle the two at the same time. So my sure boss said, "Oh, so me papa wuna yesi no wiya, me Then my father dies. Until the event has occurred, which will trigger the crystallization of the promise. And yet, I do not. So that is a non-performance.
Okay.
Because what the promise was hinged on has actually materialized.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, Lawyer Kofi, let's come back. So you mentioned non-performance, no? The other one, we say anticipatory. Can you also explain that one?
So anticipatory is premised or is rooted in its name, anticipation. So in anticipation of the parties getting married, one of them puts it out of the other's will or power to fulfill or honor the promise. And this is the example I'll give.
Okay.
If, let's say, we decided that when my father dies, per the example Lawyer Adote was using, I will marry you. But then my father is not dead.
Okay.
And the event that I was, the event I was looking forward to honor my promise has not occurred yet. But then I go ahead and I marry someone else. Which means, especially under ordinance, let me be specific. Under ordinance, then I have put it out of my will to go ahead and then marry you, although the said event hasn't happened. Or for instance, I've decided to marry you on the 8th of August 2027.
Okay.
That is about like 3-4 years from now. But then next year, I decided I'm not marrying you, and I've married someone else under ordinance.
Okay.
Although the date that I promised to marry you has not yet come.
Yeah.
I've put it out of my power to honor my promise to marry you. So it is the anticipation or being in anticipation to honor my promise that has been breached, or because I've taken it out of your capacity.
Okay.
That is what we mean by the anticipatory breach.
Okay. In both instances, when it happens, just say there has been a breach.
Yes.
Examples now more money. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, na yaka breach na ana say obi fail so be worry. The nipakuna we fail, does he have any defense in law? I don't know how to. Timothy.
Say
Say bia wa show boss obe worry. Na either anticipatory or non-performance. Nipakuna worry no. Or one OEB, is there anything the person can say or reason be or what legally will be accepted?
So we have stressed time without number that marriage or an agreement to marry is like a contract.
Okay.
So it follows almost all the characteristics of a contract. Okay. So a person can get out of a contract when he has breached the contract with a valid defense.
Okay.
One of them, frustration. The parties cannot fulfill their promise to each other.
Okay.
We'll explain it as we go along. Okay, that is one. Fraudulent misrepresentation. Noni oha mokokloche edomononi e plakeshi ba akpe bue. apasa amaleni. Nia nipa fufuro na onipa ko na wo share no bose obe ware no. Nyoma wo ka share no. Asie no intro ene wo asie enti original san intro no so agi tum say obe ware.
Okay.
So that's fraudulent misrepresentation.
Iti me this one o ka say enti ebia lawyer Kofi share ama. Na wa ama promise obe ware no. Bibi nti wan ware no. Na ye bibisa lawyer Kofi a ono say ebia ama e kan say bi kire no.
No, it's the other way around.
Lawyer Kofi mu.
No, so fraudulent misrepresentation. Okay, he refused to marry.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
So he is giving that defense.
He is giving that defense.
Ama can send bi kire no.
Ama can send bi kire no. Ebia ni ama could have been married.
Okay.
But ebia ni kunu no we took kwa brochi. But na brochi for 10 years. But Ama and country.
Ama jino home but it's a single lady.
It's a single.
Okay. Then I fraudulent
representation because you have represented something to the other party.
Okay. It's me about this sometimes oba so be share obama be no say oye juma oil and gas and now bought company big company be
exactly.
Now so be sure chine bia. Yes, some other job be it's both ways. Example now, man, can it is any no refuse here? Can the person use that as a basis? Say, Michelle will now say we say what's the trasako, what's the cantonment now? So then yes, sir. It is any no say now on marriage no uncle subioma. The person is right.
The person is right. I mean, we see this in the movies, in even actual life.
Yes. So
you have a driver who takes the boss's car. Wears the suit, goes and proposes to a girl, you know. When the girl later discovers that, I mean, the guy is a driver. Of course, your economic status is also one factor in determining whether the woman would accept your proposal or not. So if you are a driver and your pay cannot take care of even her lipstick or her makeup, of course, then she should have a defense.
Okay.
Because you misrepresented your economic status
to the person.
And the person relied on it in accepting your proposal.
Okay, I think this is very important so that the people will not feel that they are still obligated. No. Yes, once certain things come out.
Exactly.
Kofi, I don't know. Thank you, Lawyer Adote.
A person can even impersonate another person.
Okay.
What to my catcher and say, may ye onya say wabra onion sani papa.
Yeah, otunfoni iye.
So and I say, oh, like an actual person, say be a mene ebia apostle say. Na ebi a unhu ne da ba. Unim say, eh, apostle we na we be say. Now what rely on no. What rely on sa asem na kind so na later we find out say oh na me boa na say me ka say na so say wa shembo so be war me na say afede o she me bo na ma she obo so be war na wa je atum no o mum o benya defense say ba wo twantro ni papa na so ye no o boa
the person doesn't have any rights over you. Say, this is a good defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good defense.
Okay. And I think you mentioned other defenses too. Bad character is that also a defense? Bad character. Say, yeah. Obi lawyer Adote, if you can explain bad characters as a defense. Nipakuna promise so.
Yes.
Now so be a nanti muna.
So nanti mun what the subambit probably. You are a wife beater, potential, because of your violent nature and character, the way you handle even the animals in your home and everything. It can trigger a signal to your intended.
A red flag.
It's a huge red flag that if you come under his roof, the likelihood of him lifting his hand against you is high.
It's high. So
then the other bad characters you can talk about drunkenness and those kind of the person is a thief. You are intended married. You first change the promises. Anytime you go to his house or you go to an event, by the time you come home, 100 cedis is missing from your bag, well, the person is a thief.
Okay.
Or then the casang or dear term like or yeah for doesn't know how to talk to people, doesn't respect your family. Like these are some serious things you could also hold as a defense. But in any case, and yes, although I'm not akakeke and a money defense, you need to show it in court.
Yeah.
When the person has brought that suit
against you.
Against you in court, you need to prove it.
Okay. I think there's other way to infidelity, insanity. Are defenses.
Infidelity, you say we are memano or pema, and then bohua or ne aso or china or ne araba, na or ne ama. Oh, so I want to make because remember your young admin said or neighbor or baba cobetina.
Okay.
So and on say potential red flag.
Okay. Until know your ground.
Ground.
The lady name say on worry with you, ma.
Yeah.
You the guy, you cannot force the lady.
Yeah.
All right. See
and an admin so kana. Omu back say be an admin kana. It is a valid defense.
I think this one there's also a caveat say if you knew at the point of making the promise, say the person had that. Now you still made the promise.
Go ahead now, promising so about now. And then they
you can use that
defense.
Yes. Yes.
And no so.
Okay.
But the defense will avail if the insanity occurs after the promise has been made.
Okay.
Then it's a valid defense.
Okay.
Then you go to the bodily infirmity, which I call frustration. Because if you are getting married, you also intend, let me use the term in our law books. Consortium. That means physical relations with your spouse. So something has happened, an accident has occurred, okay? And when the accident occurred, the intended spouse suffered an injury, which has incapacitated the person. You cannot be forced to marry such a person because of the bodily infirmity which has occurred after the promise has been made.
All right. Thank you so much. So, how long should a promise remain? How long should a promise remain? Say, Abia, Kofi Asia, I'm using Kofi, not necessarily example. Kofi Asia,
I'm also Kofi, so we are
okay.
Kofi.
Then I'm safe. Kofi Asia, Ama, 2010. Now I promise Ama, so Ama, mewaro. One ma date biao, I will be useful for non-performance and a bibia. Honestly, one ma event biya. I say mewaro. 2011, 2012, 2013. Yes, no ko. Ama say, na Kofi won't worry me. Kofi says, I say mewaro. How long? Is there any duration? And I'll ban in China, and I'll be man in China till the person is ready, and Lawyer Kofi.
Just a coincidence, video Kofi than watching. So this is the situation where the courts will determine this case based on its merit and then look at the circumstance of the duration.
Okay.
But the courts have ruled through precedent that the promise must be honored within reasonable time.
Okay.
Reasonable time, you know. You share dan calculate. I mean, we say be our share sabono within 1 year and 6 months. 1 year, we will to master no do ako. So it is possible that the court would deem reasonable time as maybe 2 years.
Okay.
So the court has to look at the circumstances
of that particular
and make that determination, and it is not within one party's right. Yes, you may feel that I check because 12 years about
12 years they say be womb.
A big womb.
But it will depend.
It will depend.
Okay.
Or maybe 5 years, 7 years, 2 years, 3 years, whatever duration, you can come before the court and the court will make its determination based on reasonable time. This is the interpretation of the reasonable time. Yeah.
Thank you. Lawyer Timothy, is there anything you want to add? Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Viewers, if you are watching and you have any questions, please send it in 054-606-4 4913. Okay, thank you so much. Today we are learning a lot. This breach of promise to marry, no? Is it only under ordinance and now customary law to the law recognizes breach of promise to marry under customary law? Customary law to so be a promise to say me worry fear worry. Now one warrior. Can you bring breach of promise to marry against the person, Lawyer Timothy?
Yes, you can. From the very beginning, we indicated that you can say customary law is part of the laws of Ghana.
Okay.
And I can say customary marriage is also a valid marriage under the laws of Ghana. And it will be shall boss or be waru a fear aware. Na when to me and waruwa. A coin the home say would no be court. Now I can say Bosha or share me when this into I buy mommy compensation for this one for what is his breach of the promise to marry.
Thank you. I think this one too, because Sokowari will be under customary law. Say no, so it's potentially polygamous. So the person too can say oh, say my worry ama.
Yes. Why shall my boss say ube worry no a fear worry? What's now 1 year or train a year. Second year no now what was Abena. Now what worry no a fear worry. Obviously. There's a ground for breach.
Okay. All right.
So the fact that customary marriage is potentially polygamous, so Obama bet me worry. But the promise was made first in time to Amma.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lawyer Dotty.
And then also,
yes.
it can be that you promised to marry the lady under customary marriage on a specific date.
Okay.
When that date came, you didn't honor that promise.
Okay, so all the things you said prior,
it applies.
Okay.
And then also, or for instance, before that date ensued, you married another person under ordinance.
Okay.
Even though you promised Amma to be married customary marriage.
Now will be a court. Now no.
So you're putting it out of Amma's reach to be married under customary also.
Okay.
And then again, it can be done out of reasonable time. What's now on 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? No show. When you're wondering, say, baby.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lawyer Adote and Lawyer Kofi. Okay. So obi the say court normally what are the remedies? Can the court force the person who has breached the promise to marry the person taking the action? What are the remedies available, Lawyer Kofi? Yes.
I know the we see that. We also see that the court be show be say uncle because if viewers would remember our discussion on the essential features of marriage is a voluntary union of two people. It has to be of their own volition, not forced down on them.
Okay.
So even though I'm suing you for the breach of promise to marry, I cannot ask the court to compel you to be married to me when I don't want to. So the only remedy that is available to that party, the person suing for the breach of promise to marry, is damages. Damages na yesika.
Okay.
And then you be quantify no. Say be a special, say general, say a compensatory, say a punitive. The court will determine the assessment of damages. Any sika circumstances na a warranty. No, the says
so you're saying the only remedy is damages.
Damages.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Lawyer Kofi. All right. When also normally before marriage, sometimes there are exchange of gifts. It is watch obano and na bema no gifts be. Na promise ambassador. What happens? Can you go and take the gifts? I mean, marriage and ambassador. You heard it. Can you go and take the gift back? And now they are changing. There's nothing you can do.
Upe say we are bema your friend Kofi. Your Kofi. I can use that. Now what she ama, you first promise to marry. fortunately or unfortunately for you, depending on how you look at it, 14th of February has come. Now I got a card. Now I show nice to Ama. I got gifts. Maybe a necklace, any golden chains, any baby. Now they are man. Now the man. It is not in contemplation of our It means that it wasn't given in contemplation. You are just celebrating somebody for a certain event, which is Valentine's Day.
Hey.
Another one can be maybe the person's birthday. Now watching baby. It is a woman. It's not in contemplation of marriage per se. It is if there's a breach of promise to marry on the part of Ama. Into me court and kosu say court mfa me chain and me Valentine's Day card I made man on fan some family.
That's how the man because you're in a relationship.
We're in a relationship, but because we're celebrating Valentine's Day or the birthday, it wasn't the objective was not in contemplation of the marriage.
So okay. All right.
We can even take it higher to another level. Maybe what to car man. What you say? What to car man? Maybe I shouldn't go there, but Dino still no. The ownership documents are still in your name.
That one is even with so something like what a necklace, very expensive
necklace,
golden necklace,
very nice piece of cloth or something. Because you didn't give it to her in contemplation, or it's not part of the marriage process now. You cannot go to court and ask for
really?
It. Yes.
Lawyer Kofi, is there anything you have to say about
that? Because it is, so he has talked about gifts that is given but not in contemplation of marriage. So let me talk about gifts that are given in contemplation
of the
marriage. So for instance, Mato Asase, my marriage in Muba Besi Dan or so, that it will be your matrimonial home. You are not yet married, but that is what you decided to do.
Yes.
That in itself, before the marriage ensues, the person in whose name that document would bear would be construed by the court to be holding that land or property in constructive trust.
Okay.
Trust is a whole different topic, but court in Behune say, although it's a woodin and a one cratan, so nemum a mumienu, because a mumienu sika, and now aqua could demon. So the court would have to look at the contribution of both and then divide. No be or be Nanso say ba kope esika obe make it order ama ya change ni papono din as sama naba other part in the
Okay.
So the gift has to be distinguished. Was it given in contemplation of marriage?
So it means that it would depend. If it was given in contemplation of the marriage, then you can take it.
Yeah. If you see a Bible, over to me the Bible amount. Say my child said to me engagement on your man.
So then that one is in contemplation.
Exactly.
So that one you can retrieve it.
Over to me apply for an order for the return of those gifts.
Started to talk engagements in Nyama into ma. It means it was done in contemplation of the marriage.
Exactly.
What talk entoma ring Bible Nyama ninya sandals bibia daho. Now, the man can now go and take those things under the law is allowed.
Maybe one more but
some gifts are expensive.
Oh, yeah.
You can even go. You can talk about buying a fridge, buying
because they are preparing
kettle, buying microwave oven. Because all of those are in contemplation of the marriage. It's not just a mere gift because you are a woman and I want to decorate your kitchen that I bought them for you. But we wanted to live together as man and wife.
This is
we will need this.
Because outside say there any birthday and I vows and I Christmas, but because you are in a relationship, people buy gifts. So I think it will be a bit dicey determining whether it was given in contemplation or not. Is it that easy to determine?
Usually the court has to, it's the court that determines it.
Okay.
And usually also, both parties will not agree on the nature for which that gift was given. So you provide evidence, and then the circumstance under which that gift was given, then the other would also have to come and then defend, saying that, oh no, it was just a mere gift that you gave me.
So it would depend.
Then the court will determine based on the oral testimony and other evidence that will be procured or tendered in court. Then the court will make that determination. But usually, any say yet because say matter dia my birthday has it in contemplation of marriage, because even if you are in a relationship, you'd have bought the person that birthday gift nonetheless. So if you are talking about land to build a matrimonial home, that is different, because we are thinking of marriage. Yeah, but worry you say nya baby tena.
Lawyer Kofi, embema mbi mu wig cra just obeje wig, obeje shoe, all these things, because the man will say, if you are not my girlfriend, I wouldn't have bought these things for you. So I don't see
those are just
that
gifts,
clear.
not made in contemplation.
Don't mean the two wig in court.
Oh, David.
Obeji no crapo no, we must define it, because ebia no ankasa na wakọ fi ho. Akwa tam nyoma no now say or the mount. But if this matter appears before court, as Lawyer Boatin said, the court looks at the facts.
Okay.
And then we'll determine whether this is a gift
in contemplation of the marriage.
Or in contemplation of the marriage, or it's a gift simpliciter.
Okay.
Until remember now, Mung for Obanun court here for breach of promise to marry. Now what can if you can say, we me toma, watare me toma, shoe we me toma, until me family. Stop it.
Okay.
It is unlawful.
Thank you, Lawyer.
Anna, go to me because say maba made the anti-farmer me. You don't have a court order. Yes. You need a court order.
I said this can not the toy.
You can the toy. I say oh my kwan so I first the year nyoma.
Exactly.
So who to me fiti preocupen ka say carry when I'm talking family mami.
And I don't know I'm out for a relationship but they are
even obetuma hide that my nipa krono. But if without the person's consent or permission, you could even be guilty of trespass.
Yes.
Trespassing on the person's property.
You must do things the right way.
Okay.
So,
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Lawyer Kofi. Viewers, I hope you are really learning a lot. So, what question there? Please send it 054-606-4913. We are taking a short break. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Tac Newsline will bring you incredible news stories
from business, the economy, religion, politics, and health.
The latest in entertainment, sports, exclusive interviews, and updates.
Do join us on our social media handles: Facebook Tac TV, YouTube Tac TV.
Tac Newsline, live on weekdays at 8 p.m.
Tac Newsline.
Tac Newsline.
Tac Newsline. Demystifying the news.
Tac Newsline, live on weekdays at 8 p.m.
One of the most beautiful gifts God has given us is the power of choice. When you refuse to use the power God has given you, lesser powers in life will rule over you.
You must only listen to that which empowers you. I can tell you I'm only an expert on one thing, and that's how to be me. And I do it well.
One situation now, a woman, how and when do you have to get up and move up?
A poor foundation, a small foundation, an ugly foundation is not one that is destroyed.
Satan had an issue with God, and then he was sent down to earth. Is that not an issue of
refuse to be neutral. Stand for something. Otherwise, you die for nothing. And that's why we are saying, I choose to choose.
Welcome back to the courtroom. And before we went on the break, not discussion, it wasn't easy. I think we were talking about, say, Obiama gifts in, say, with the agreement to marry. Not promise, no, make you know. one warrior. Can you go for those gifts? And now their money to Ashegu. Lawyer Aditi.
No, I think we made a distinction between gifts that are given in contemplation of marriage and gifts which are given simplicity.
Okay.
And answer na yako break no me can say what obi adi is not in contemplation of marriage. Now we are breaching promise to marry you. Now the bufu akonifie akosisani wig akosisani bag afa shoe any furniture because una automan you have breached the law. It is illegal and you have committed trespass and all of that. Enti nipakuna wa ready ni fear afasa anyumano. The person can take you to court legally and the court will, depending on the circumstance, will grant a remedy.
No, I didn't take a to anyamano.
You will not worry. He ke ye ke ame paying a don no ko o ya ko court. No ke budencho o hiwale. Ba ya awla shia. Ko na le beten kra o ba fan wi ge keje pampa. Alo waje tukutake je na nishishi. Oba ya shia oba lo ni shoes fridge can even know who hale. Ba no fear because it is against the law.
Wow.
Ame eple nuna amade. Ame didn't marry you. So because of anger, ye apame eto wig, echo shoe, echo bag, be away, eple near. Mega winanema. Because it is against the law. If you want your things back that you gave in contemplation of marriage, your route is to go to the court. That the person has breached the promise to marry. Then one of the remedies which Lawyer Boateng has spoken extensively about will be that the gifts that you gave in contemplation of the marriage will be given back to you. Let's stop this illegality and let's stop this backwardness.
Sometimes they just want to disgrace their person.
It is backwardness. It is backwardness.
Okay. Thank you, Lawyer Aditi. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so what if the gift is given and now the marriage actually happens? Ama worry. Afina be man na oba net na say okay before me worry no me to gift him out and so me jemade. Can the person do that? Lawyer Kofi? Or the mal before the marriage was a gift. Now my worry was okay. Yeah, worry into me jemade.
Once it's a gift, and because it was given in contemplation of marriage and the marriage ensues or comes on, then you cannot lay claim to the return of it. Okay. The only way you can have it returned is when what you were given it in contemplation of does not happen. Okay. Say ode achede na ma nipa krono. Say me be wari untinam de ma ono. Aware na nya baso no. Mintumi nka say safa ma achede na ma me. Because say nya aware.
Say ordinary or the election. Or the campaign. It's what's our man area? So
the person has acquired title, legal title to that specific gift. Okay. Because the marriage has our baso. So nasanka ambaso dia and now to me court, extra court and say on your order mount. Then for what the answer so nye day. Emma because our arena enunti what they say achede name ni pakono. Our arena into mama so.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Let me just add to it.
Yes, please do.
Let's be plain and simple.
Criticism.
So, why worry nipa no? Answer no worry no. What to nyoma be edi achena? Why worry na ewi?
So ojewa.
Na fe o se ojewa. I mean, what kind of life is that?
Viewers, I hope you are learning a lot today. And you can say, I don't say criticism. But the achena ewi no more worry. Allow the person to enjoy the thing. Okay. Let's look at say mo worry you were in concubinage in a mutuma acquire property and the marriage didn't come on. Property no how would the property be dealt with by the law, Lawyer Kofi?
Okay. Remember, if you be trust,
Okay.
say, adeɛ bi ɛwɔ obi, nanso nkrataa mu no, ɛnyɛ nipa koro ne din ɛna ɛwɔ so.
Okay.
Enti nipa koro na ne din wɔ saa nkrataa no so no, will be held to have legal title over the land. Na nipa koro na ɛyɛ ne deɛ no, nanso ne din ni saa nkrataa no so no, will be held to have equitable interest in that property. Enti ekoba ne say na nipa koro na ebia ma acquire property together.
Yeah.
Ba ebia ba ko din na ebia ba krata no so no. Then the din ama krata no so no is held to be in constructive trust of the other.
The din wo krata.
The din wo krata no so no. He's holding legal title. On na emremu no yehu ne say ade ne wo no.
Okay.
Nanso emra kro na kasa under equity would give
the
other person acknowledgement say and also our interest by showing the person's contribution and any form of advancement concerning that property.
Okay.
So enti utumi show and then the court to determine, okay, let's assess each and everyone's contribution. Enti her contribution na ni ache based on that contribution.
Okay.
And it may well be that nipa krona ni din won krata no so no won fa hwe kranka ho ne kaprekra ni.
Okay.
Internal and the court only orders the return
of the property
to the equitable interest holder.
Okay.
From the trustee.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Lawyer Duty, is there anything you want to? Okay. All right. Okay. So we have a question from Linda. Let's look at this question. Linda says that I live at Tema. I stayed with my boyfriend for 5 years. He was married and the wife lives in the US. I performed the duties of a wife, took care of the man. I was cooking, washing his clothes, took care of him when he was sick. One day, he told me the wife is coming back from US, so I should pack my belongings and leave his house. I left this man and he left me also without any compensation. I wasted my 5 years for nothing. Please help me to take legal action against him. He has given me a broken heart and used me, and he has not compensated me. Linda from Tema. Thank you for sending your question. Kofi, why are you laughing? This is a serious thing. Osha Linda say on a boyfriend at now for 5 years. Now so Linda now also say boyfriend no worried. Now so now the unity US or Abrichi. No nigga yet now 5 good years. Why you duane wa prapra fie. Just a share bear man no say the way or you be sure or nikunu. Yes. No more na the boyfriend catcher and say, Linda, my wife is returning from US. It's in Israel, leave the house. And Linda's issue is say, we wasted 5 years. 5 years is not small. 5 good years. So perhaps if Linda met the guy and she was 25, she would have been 30 years. Yes. You know, like I said, the guy didn't compensate. The end say, you didn't even compensate her. Nothing. What's your uncle? So she's asking, does she have any remedy? Can she take legal action against the guy? Lawyer Duty.
First of all, this your boyfriend is married. So if he married under ordinance, you had no business having a boyfriend who is married under ordinance because the marriage is strictly monogamous. Yes. That's a point one.
Okay.
Point two, assuming that the man married the other woman customarily.
Okay.
So it is potentially polygamous. Then he has the right under the law to take on additional wives.
Okay.
So they'll put that in the freezer and continue. But here is a case where the man is married. You knew. Then you went into this relationship for 5 years, performing all the duties of a wife, and yet you knew he had a wife. So let's assume that it was an ordinance marriage. Obviously, this relationship is going nowhere. And I wonder why you would now 5 years. But if it was customary marriage, that's a different thing. Then you were and because you are asking this question on Tac TV, I am assuming that you are a Christian. Okay, so you know also that you cannot be a second wife, especially after you've known Christ. You cannot be a second wife to another person.
So she's saying the man didn't even compensate her. 5 years, no.
You see?
Thank you, Lawyer Abigail. 5 years, you were enjoying the food, you're enjoying everything. 5 years.
Maybe I church I say more. Now, message will be NTN. You probably be maxims of equity. But could be when the part or say equity will not suffer a wrong to be without a remedy. Now, equity is not going to suffer a wrong to be without a remedy, no, which means that a wrong in law should have occasioned. A wrong in law, and then they say, oh, a right to be. Anna, yetiti alfan who die be so. Oko empanatri anymore, because a empanatri, what you have to say, you went in accepting that you will be a girlfriend. Empanatri mu na oko there was no promise made to you that, oh, me ba be ware. And I said, oh, tina menchen, emfie se so a, mema oskase. Okay. And I said, fie no so ye no. One first says can amount. Okay. And I said, oh, but tina menchen say, may you say amount. Ma make these promises. Amount. And I said, fie inum ye edru ye no. Menye sa anyoma no. Inti said, me make sa promise no. And I said 5 years no drew ye no. Mainly so okay. A wrong has occasioned for which equity will seek a remedy on your behalf. But this was the situation where it was casual. Unim so aware on promise o hwe ana mutim ana mo enjoy mo ho. Obako for enjoy no ho. Mumie nana na mo enjoy mo ho. So ho. Enti it doesn't like to say that he has used you. He has not. So
the law cannot compensate lender.
There's no wrong that has occasion for which equity will give you any remedy.
5 solid years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what may happen is that if the man has a conscience, okay, so now we are applying moral suasion. Okay. It's not a legal right or a legal remedy. If the man has a conscience, out of the conscience, the 5 years washing, cooking, cleaning, I'm sure he also spent some money on you during the 5 years. But if he has some level of conscience, he may decide to compensate you. Okay. But it is not something that, as Lawyer Abigail said, a right for you to stand on.
So she can't take legal action?
No, she can't take legal action. And the man, out of the benevolence of his heart, can decide that, oh, let me give you something. But based on what has been presented to us, I don't think it is going to be likely, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Lawyer Doty. Thank you, Lawyer Boateng.
Or the Linda.
Linda,
right there. Jamenka.
That is so unfortunate. Thank you, viewers. If you have any questions, please do send it to the number 054-606-4913. This has been the courtroom, and this has been a very educative and entertaining session. I hope you've learned a lot. If there's anything you don't understand, please send your question and we will address it. I have been your host, Lady Lawyer Abby, and we have Lawyer Timothy Adete and Lawyer Kofi Boateng helping us with the discussion. Thank you. Good night.